Year 4, Gauer Hour. Go. We're in the thick of exhibition season. Very much does not interest me. But we've got real games that count starting on Monday. That very much does interest me. For the uninitiated, I'm Rob Joyce, guy with a microphone. She's Megan Gauer, resident bracketologist. She crunches numbers by day in real life. She crunches resumes. Late night?
A lot of late nights lately.
A lot of late nights. Megan Gauer, how are we? How was summer?
It was good. Summer is always good. I moved. I live on the beach now, so that's exciting.
What is the beach? Like the beaches of Connecticut?
Yeah, the beaches of Connecticut. So beach with an asterisk, I suppose, but still the beach.
So your trips to Gamble and New People's Bank Arena, RIP XL Center, longer?
Yes, longer. Probably a little less trips for the Butlers and the Xaviers of the world. No offense to those programs this year.
If you're a returner, we don't talk about Big East women's basketball much outside of one obvious exception. If you're a returner, welcome back. We're happy to see you. If you're new, welcome. We're here every Friday. Consider us your hour-long primer on the week that was and the weekend to come. We'll give a broad overview, especially today, of the landscape for the most part on the Her Hoop Stats feed. If you're listening that way, our Monday through Thursday colleagues, they're much smarter basketball minds than us. They give you a lot more X's and O's, really like no one else. If you're here for red hot takes, we are disappointing you because, again, probably against the betterment of our numbers. That's not really, we try not to be too clickbaity. We're not always going to be right with what we say, but I think we at least try to be, rational. We'll have some fun. We'll have some more off the wall things in a couple of weeks that can push us through the kind of doldrums of these, a lot of bye games, exams, all that. But with that, today's show considered a very quick or a long, quick hitter. A lot of good teams. We'll take a broad brushstrokes view on and hit on as many as possible. As valuable for me, selfishly, as anyone in this show, because there's so many new faces everywhere in the portal era. You're basically starting from scratch at a lot of places every year, and I had to figure out who on earth is playing where and who's coaching where. And we'll start with a team that didn't have too much change. Megan's alma mater, the defending national champs, the preseason number 1, the Connecticut Huskies. Megan, Paige Becker's era is over. Still, preseason number 1, national championship. AZ Fudd, Sarah Strong. I think it's a well-deserved. Preseason rankings don't matter. Rankings really, in general, don't matter a whole lot. But if you're going to give it to someone, fair.
Yeah, I agree. I think fair. They return a good portion. Obviously, Paige Becker's huge loss, but a good portion of last year's national championship team in the way that they won the national championship last year. It felt kind of obvious that they should probably slot into that number 1 spot going into the season. But like you said, I mean, you return AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong. That's a heck of a duo to start off with. And I thought you kind of made really good additions in the offseason, too. I mean, Sarah Williams, Wisconsin, an all Big Ten player, really loads up that front court a little bit, an area that they were maybe a little thin last year. Obviously, not too thin because they still won a national championship, but it adds some talent and some experience in that front court. And then Kaylee Heckel, also a really nice addition out of USC in the backcourt to kind of round out some of that point guard play with Paige Beckers no longer being in the picture.
Yeah, I think Sarah Williams in particular, one of the more maybe underrated transfers in the game, because I mean, Wisconsin, they're not a tournament team. They haven't been for a long time. But as the only real piece at Wisconsin, she was a walking double-double. Now go ahead and, throw what you want at Sarah Strong. Like, leave Sarah Williams open. UConn will gladly accept that trade-off. Speaking of Strong, it's her team, right? I know AZ is the star power, but this is Sarah Strong's team.
Yeah, I think it's the end of the Paige Beckers era and probably the start of the Sarah Strong era. From all accounts from Gino and such so far, she looks worlds better than last year, which is a pretty scary thought if you're anyone not named UConn, I think, considering how good Sarah Strong already was as a freshman. But I think we're going to see a lot from her this year.
Well, the last time she took the court in a real game, 24 points, 10 of 15, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals in a national championship game victory. That's not bad. So Juju's out for the year. Lauren Betts is probably the answer right now. Hannah Hidalgo in that conversation. I think if you ask me come April, who's the best player in the country? I think the answer is Sarah Strong. She's so introverted, almost like casual lunch pail. So she doesn't have that star power of even like a Flau'jae Johnson, but bring that lunch pail and put up 24 and 15 and hit some threes and go inside and get a couple blocks. And like, that's just quiet, do it, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument from me there. Like, I think she certainly has an argument going into the season, but come April, I fully expect her to kind of be in that spot. I think she just has a skill set that a lot of the other names you mentioned just don't have, and that she can be inside and play big, but she can also step out and hit the three, and that's just something you don't see often, but is just so invaluable, especially in the college game.
Went on UConn. How does AZ handle being the guard now? She may not be the focal point of the whole offense, but no one improved more in the last 6 weeks than the Final Four's most outstanding player. But she's finally healthy. She has stayed healthy a full off season of health for the first time in God knows how long. She's shown she's more than a 3-point shooter. How does the next step is how does she handle Paige isn't getting all the attention she is in that backcourt?
Yeah, exactly. She's gonna see, not that she hasn't already seen a lot of the best defenders, but she's gonna see every best defender in the backcourt this season, and they're gonna be relying on her more too. Not that UConn didn't rely on her last year, but Paige was option number one, and now you're option number one, and that comes with a lot more pressure and need to lead this team um, from the kind of the opening tip in these games.
Yeah, so now we'll go conference by conference for at least the power conferences, as UConn kind of fits nicely as we don't talk Big East basketball. I will invest time in Big East women's basketball when most of the Big East athletics departments invest time and effort in women's basketball.
Exactly.
So let's move to, well, I don't think it's a whole much of a debate. I know it's the preseason, so we haven't played the games, but SEC is the best conference, right?
Oh, yeah. It's easy. It's easy. Yeah.
Right. Even if like two of these 5 top 10 teams aren't as good, like they're fine, they're top 15 good or top 20 good instead of top 10 good, whatever. For a full in-depth SEC preview on the Hoop Stats side of this feed, Jamie Sire Johnson, Jack Church went more in depth, I think, last Friday's episode. But we're going to hit on, there's a lot of top teams. We'll start with the defending national runners-up. South Carolina, I think this is maybe the most fascinating team in the country because there's just so much that we don't know when, like what we think of South Carolina. This year's team, I don't think is going to be that.
Yeah, I agree. I think South Carolina being number 2 in that preseason poll, like we said, rankings don't matter, but is I think a testament to what Dawn Staley has built and just a confidence that even though this team looks entirely different than it did last year, it's still going to be really good. They bring back some good pieces in terms of Raven Johnson's back, Tessa Johnson's back, Joyce Edwards, who had a great freshman season, is back, but I think obviously the highlight here is they bring in Tania Latson, top scorer out of Florida State. Like, it's just such an interesting piece to a South Carolina team that doesn't typically rely on like one prolific scorer. So I'm really interested to see how she's going to fit in.
Do you know the last time? I mean, South Carolina is the ultimate team program, right? Do you know the last time they had someone average 17 a game for a season?
Like Asia, maybe?
Correct.
Yeah.
A'ja Wilson. Now, mind you, she's, maybe the best women's basketball player to ever walk the face of the earth. That was also 7 years ago from South Carolina's perspective. And this isn't a dig at all. I mean, look at how many, they've won a couple of national championships. Stones throws away from a couple of more. But Joyce Edwards led the team last year. Didn't even reach 13. Cardoso, 14.5. Cook, 15. Aaliyah Boston, nearly 17. That would be her junior year. Zia Cook again. Kiki Herbert-Harrigan averaged 13 her senior year. Taya Cooper, 12. And then A'ja. So, the ultimate team, they don't need someone to score 20 a game like some of these other teams do. They haven't needed it. Actually, you have to go back to Dawn's second year in the SEC or at South Carolina to find a 17-point per game guard, and that team wasn't sniffing the tournament. Like, not even Tiffany Mitchell averaged 17 a game. So she's never had a weapon like Tania Latson ever. How does she marry the ultimate team program with a player like Latson, who led the country in usage rate? Like, something's going to give for a positive way, but, Latson, I don't think is going to average 22, 23 a game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, and we'll start to get a look obviously next week, but I think it'll probably evolve throughout the season and kind of how South Carolina chooses to use Latson, but then also how Latson fits into that system, because it's certainly going to be the adjustment from being in a Florida State system where you were the number one option all the time, and also a Florida State system that was very offensive driven and not a lot of focus on defense. And it's a big pivot to what you're coming into at South Carolina.
I mean, I don't know when's the last time Tania Latson practiced defense. Well, I assume they don't do it at Florida State. Yeah. I mean, it works offensively. I actually don't think that, given the injury to Chloe Kitts, and Ashlyn Watkins technically isn't even in school right now. She's out for the year. Mm-hmm. I think the most impactful transfer might wind up being, or the one that maybe makes or breaks their season, is Medina Okot from Mississippi State. Good player. She averaged nearly a double-double on a tournament team. She's 6'6". But with no Watkins and no Kitts, remember they weren't like a historically dominant interior presence of recent South Carolina once Watkins went down. Does that further diminish a bit with Kitts out too? But also, like, if they give up an extra, I don't know, 4 or 5 points a game, but they score like 7 or 8 more points, especially in these big games, like, does that matter? Like, I would probably take that trade-off, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a different look, but agree. Like you're gonna have a lot more scoring in the backcourt than maybe they've had in recent years, but you're trading off in the front court, especially with Kitts being out for the year now too. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that looks on the floor. I do think it's an area that has traditionally been a South Carolina strength that now a lot of those other top teams are going to be able to attack. If you think about a UCLA that has a Lauren Betts or a UConn that has a Sarah Strong and a Sarah Williams, now that front court advantage tips in a way that it hasn't in the past.
Right. For all these comments for these top teams, like, yeah, South Carolina's going to win 30x games of some sort. We're talking Texas, LSU, UConn, like these big time games. This could be a problem, but maybe, Okat 6'6", Miriam Dowda, she's never really put it together, but she's a former 5-star. Adele Tack played marginally last year, was a redshirt, I don't know, but she hasn't played much. Joyce Edwards obviously played a lot. She's maybe the best rim running big in the country, though. Like, are you going to ask her to stay and park that extra 2 seconds in the paint, and then you take away what is probably her best attribute, is her ability to go 94 feet and beat everyone down the floor? So, I mean, they're still really, really, really good. And I'm sure all of these answers will be answered fairly quickly. They're just, unlike most years with South Carolina, they're just more, I don't even know if they're questions, just it's a new look that we're not used to. Which takes us to another team who made the Final Four last year. Fewer questions, at least in terms of the newness. Tejas, Texas, off his first Final Four run. The bulk of that team is back. So now, where do they go from here? I question if they even added any dynamism offensively, but again, they're still going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, you bring back your key pieces. Rory Harmon's back. Madison Booker is back. Jordan Lee, who I thought had a great freshman season for them, is back, and hopefully they'll get more out of her this year. And then Oldacre is back in the front court. The thing that jumps out to me, though, we talk about constantly with Texas, and they made it to a Final Four without 3-point shooting last year, so we can only say so much. But like they really didn't add anything. I think that's going to bolster that offense. Like you said, they've got some decent transfers. Brett Cunningham coming in from Arizona, but there's just nothing on that page that jumps out that makes this team much better than last year. But like I said, I mean, they were already pretty darn good last year, so maybe you don't need to take that much of a step forward. It's just a little disappointing.
Yeah, Jordan Lee, if she steps up, and again, she doesn't need to be a prolific 3-point shooter, just enough to keep a defense honest. Ashton Judd, like, she averaged 11 a game. She's an okay 3-point shooter on a terrible Missouri team. I like Bray Cunningham from Arizona. She's 6'4". Like, this is a very specific quote unquote problem. Texas can bully 358 teams.
Right.
Can they crack 60 against South Carolina or LSU or UConn or whomever in an Elite Eight or a Final Four? And the answer's maybe. Like, the start of February onward last year, they played 12 NCAA tournament teams not named William and Mary, who was a 16 seed. 12 games, they cracked 70 twice. And they didn't do it at all in the final 6 games. They didn't even hit 60 points in 4 of those final 6 games. So you're talking the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament run. Got you to a Final Four, then wasn't really overly, like, it wasn't in doubt in the fourth quarter in the Final Four.
Yeah. And I think this is a team, right, where, like, the Final Four is not the goal. The championship is the goal. So if we're talking about that lens from Texas, that's where that comes from. Like, they're going to be really good again. They're going to be a top 5 team. They could probably go back to the Final Four, but, like, how do you make that next step?
Yeah, as we run through these,
jumping off.
Yeah, as we run through these teams, like, I'm high on UConn. I'm high on South Carolina because they're, like, there's no reason to not be high on South Carolina. Right. I'm high on, we'll talk LSU and Ole Miss and Oklahoma and all these teams. I'm lower on Texas than what's their preseason ranking? 3? I think 4. The Final Four teams are 1 through 4. Yeah, so I don't think I'm quite there, but I mean, they're 6 if they're not 4 in my eyes. Right. So they're still, I mean, they're just so overwhelmingly physical that, again, this issue that we've talked about is 5 games a year. Now they're the 5 that matter. LSU, best backcourt in the country?
Probably. Very possibly.
Michaela Williams, Flage, and then, of course, Mylasia Full-Wiley transfers from Columbia, the top recruiting class in the country. I know there are question marks in the front court. This might be the most talented team in the SEC. Doesn't mean they're the best team. They might be the most talented.
Yeah, I feel like this is what 3 or 4 years now of LSU having a kind of a different look each year with the amount of transfers that they're bringing in, but every year they're kind of an exciting team to see what they're going to do. And Full Wiley obviously being the highlight of that transfer class this year, but they're going to have a really good backcourt, a really good backcourt, and they're losing a lot in the front court. Like you can't ignore that what Anissa Mora was for this team. Like that is a huge loss. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see a team that's going to score a lot more points than maybe we've seen in the past from LSU. Just with the backcourt trio there, they've got a great freshman class that came into the top recruiting class, like you said. So this is one of those teams that it's probably going to take a little bit to gel. They might not look like the number 5 team in the country in November, but I think they're going to be really good as we
Well, the
get
good
to
news is
February.
the good news is it's a classic LSU non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look good, let me pull it up real
It'll
quick.
still look good because, yeah, they don't have much competition until I think they play Duke at some point in the non-conference slate, but that's the only notable game.
Yes, pulling it. They do play Duke. I think that is at the SEC ACC challenge, so they are
Yeah,
basically
forced to
contractually
it.
obligated to head to Duke. We'll know a lot more on December 4th, but yeah, other than that, their best non-conference game is. I'm spitballing here because I don't have the her hoop stats composites in front of me. I'm gonna say Tulane or Charlotte.
Yeah.
Gives you a sense. I think Michaela Williams is still underrated nationally. Like I guess she's not as bombastic as Angel Reese was. She doesn't have the star power of Flau'jae. She's the best player on the team. Morrow was last year, but like Williams wasn't far behind. 17 points a game. She rebounds. She's assists. She shoots 50%. She shoots 40% from deep. I think she's an All-American, like first team All-American caliber player that maybe she kind of gets forgotten because she wasn't Angel or last year Morrow or doesn't have that, again, that's that raw outside off-court star power of Flau'jae.
Yeah, agreed. I do think she gets overlooked, and I'm interested to see if that kind of starts to pivot this year now that, Angel and Anissa are both gone. Like, this team is looking for that new go-to player, and Michaela Williams is the obvious candidate to be that player for LSU.
Yes. Front court, we mentioned the question marks. Kate Koval started for Notre Dame as a freshman last year. He got exposed a bit, but a lot of talent. She's the only player above 6'2" on this team that's probably going to play. Amaya Joyner was a double-double machine at East Carolina. We'll see how that translates to the SEC. Grace Knox, she's a wing player at 6'2", so not a traditional big. So they're smaller than they have been. That doesn't preclude them from anything, but like when they play Texas, that's just going to be a fascinating matchup of two teams with seemingly very different strengths and very different weaknesses against each other. So that'll be exciting. I know they're not the next highest ranked SEC team. We talk Ole Miss.
This team is
I mean, they got Cody McMahon, a brand new team from last year. Hard to figure out what it's going to look like. Cody McMahon's not a bad start.
Yeah, there's just 2 players that played in a game, I think, last year on the roster this year. They've got 8 transfers. So as entirely new as the team can get, but Cody McMahon, obviously, a huge pickup. I feel like her time at Ohio State, there was ups and downs, right? Like she was sometimes really, really, really good, and then there was times where it was like she couldn't quite put it all together. But if they can get a Cody McMahon at the highest level, like that's a heck of a starting piece for this team with all the pieces around her.
Yeah, McMahon. I feel like you and I have a little bit of bias here, especially because she was unstoppable in that Sweet 16 win over UConn as a freshman. And so you think, oh, like, it's only up from here. And she had really, really good games. It was just never really consistent at Ohio State. She was banged up a little bit last year. Now, fresh start. I mean, no one portals like Coach Yo portals. So, fresh start. She's going to be the headliner. But does Caitlin Peterson from UCF score like her 21 points a game in the Big 12 last year suggests? Latasha Lattimore is pretty good at Virginia. She's on her 4th school in, I believe, 4 or 5 years. And then Jayla Murray led the team at Wichita State. So there's so much new. I'm firmly holding my stock. The preseason number 12. Firmly holding. I don't want to go all in because, again, it's so new and so many pieces. It may take some time. But last year they made the leap. Now they're trying to make the leap, their hardest leap arguably there is. Went from a bubble team who beat Stanford to maybe a little bit too much too soon the next year. They were quiet in 2023. They made the tourney. But then last year, they're in that hosting conversation. They wound up a 5 seed. Now, can you make that jump into hosting and staying there? That's the next step.
Yeah, and I think we don't really know what this team looks like until like we get into SEC play. This is one of those things where it's obviously going to take time when you have 8 new pieces to figure out. But I think it'll be interesting to kind of see what it starts to look like as we get into conference play in a couple months here, and they've got some reps underneath their belt, and we're kind of need to see like all those players that you listed were at a lower level have been able to produce so much. Like, can you replicate that in the SEC?
They have a month to figure it out. MTE is their first real test. Wisconsin, they should win. George Mason made the tournament last year, won the A10, and then they host Notre Dame as the SEC ACC challenge. That's their biggest non-conference test. So yeah, they scheduled okay in the non-con, and then obviously the SEC are going to get a quad one game. Right. What's it? 18 games, you're going to get a quad one like 13 times.
Right.
A team I am excited about. No reason they shouldn't be a top 10 team the entire year. The preseason top 10. Oklahoma. They're maddening at times, but I mean, there's no reason this shouldn't be a Final Four caliber team.
Yeah, I think we saw last year that they were right there. They were a second weekend team. They made a big leap. Reagan Beer is obviously a huge piece of that when she transferred over from Oregon State. It was a huge addition for them. You bring back Peyton Bearholst is back, and they've got a ton of freshmen, including number 3 recruit in the country. So kind of bolstering up last year's roster with a lot of underclassmen. I think probably for this team to be a Final Four team, though, they need some of those freshmen to contribute, which we see plenty of these days. So it's not a reason to be concerned, but I think they're just depth-wise, they need some of those freshmen to be able to contribute in year one.
Yeah, Leah Chavez, depending on your outlet of choice, was the number 1 recruit in the country by some again outlets. Most like top 5 freshmen, the hit rate is really, really high, and it's really, really quick when they hit. So yeah, I expect her to fit in flawlessly. Zaya Van was really good the last 2 months of the season. Now she has, I think, the keys to the offense in her sophomore season. She'll direct everything. Sahara Williams, a consistent tertiary option. Like, they're going to play fast. They led the nation in possessions per game. They're second in total rebounds. The defense is better than the raw, I think, scoring output suggests, just because there's so many possessions in the game. Can they protect the ball? We talked about it incessantly last year. They averaged 19 turnovers a game, 330th in the country. If they can, just take care a little bit better, like 15 a game. This is a Final Four caliber team in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that's the key. You aren't going to make a Final Four turning the ball over 19 times a game. Like, that's just not going to happen, but you clean that up a little bit. And then I think the other thing for me with this team is just the depth. I think they had the talent last year, but it was like beyond 5-6, there really wasn't anyone else that was contributing, and they just need a little bit more, I think, to make that leap.
I didn't have Oklahoma in. Well, we'll end the show with our Final Four projections. I didn't end the show. I didn't write down Oklahoma. We'll see where we are in like an hour. I'm about to talk myself into it. Another team, reason for optimism. Tennessee. Lady Vols bring back Talaysia Cooper, Z Spearman, Ruby Whitehorn. They added an all-ACC second teamer in Nia Robertson. Last year, the final output from the end of Kelly Harper to year one of Kim Caldwell wasn't drastically different. They went from, I think, like a 6 seed to a 5 seed. It felt worlds different. And I think she has that thing humming in Knoxville. And I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in terms of Final Four sooner than later. I don't know if it's this year, but soon.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quite this year, but I agree. They're back kind of on that path of being one of the top teams in the country. I think returning players here is key for them, because now you have people that have gone through a year in that system. Obviously, it's a unique system, right? The hockey subs, the pace that they're playing at, it takes a little time to adjust to. So you've got players that have already been through that, have played that for a year, are bought in. You've got great new additions. They also added Janiah Barker from UCLA. They've got some interesting pieces coming in. So I think that should be an interesting team. And I don't know that this year is the Final Four year, but I expect this team to take a step forward this year.
I like the addition of Barker, who fits the style better than Jillian Hollingshed did. She's athletic, she's lean, she's mobile, she can get out in transition, she can rebound. It's like the perfect Kim Caldwell forward, I would imagine. Where they have to improve, I think, better shooters. They attempted the most threes in the country. They made the second most. They were 116th in percentage. So it was volume over quality. Did they do that? I'm not sure if they did. Then the defense, it's unique. It's going to wreak havoc. 70 a game is too many to allow. It's kind of like Oklahoma. If you improve that by even like 5 points a game, you're talking Final Four caliber.
Yeah, I agree. They're almost there. I don't know that it's this year. I feel like I'm not bought in on it this year, but I think they're gonna start getting the recruits. They're gonna start getting the big transfers. They got a couple this year. It'll keep coming, and they'll be there before we know it.
Yeah, I mean, they have 3 top 20 recruits, 5 of the top 60 who, in theory, fit your style. Again, I'm with you. I think they're a year away. They'll be good this year. They'll improve on a 5 seed. They're not going to finish 9th in the SEC. I think next year they're like top 5 all season caliber good. For now, it's like maybe that 10 range, which
Right. Yeah.
Tennessee's
Still pretty
starved.
darn good. Yeah.
Feed it to them. Feed it to them. Big question mark. A lot of hype now. They kind of came out of left field last year. Can Vandy grow? You and I both loved Vandy last year.
Yeah.
I'm not as high on the Commodores this year as basically everyone that I've read and listened to.
Yeah, I feel like they lost part of what made them so good last year. Like, yes, Michaela Blake's is amazing. She's gonna score a ton of points, but I think there was a trio in Camille Pierre and then Ayanna Moore that really contributed for this team last year, and 2 of those players are now no longer at Vanderbilt. So it's a big shift. As good as Blake's is, she can't carry this entire team by herself. And they do bring in some good additions. You got, I'm gonna say it wrong, Menentana from Texas. Like they made some decent additions in the portal, but I'm not that high on them either. Like Blake's is gonna be great, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that I see the vision around her at the moment.
Look at us in a shocking turn of events. If you're new, Megan and I agree a lot, and we don't talk about it beforehand. Yeah, Blake's, how far can she carry them? Monday, she scored 40 in an exhibition. It was great. It was against Memphis, who won 7 games last year. Don't take anything away from it. There's been growth every year under Shea Ralph. They've gone from a bottom of the SEC team to a 12 seed or 11 seed play-in game, I think, to a 7 seed. Now you're a preseason top 25 team. Aaliyah Del Rosario didn't really play much in 2 years at LSU. Jackalanga Menentanda started at Texas. She's not like a monster stat sheet stuffer. They don't have a top 100 recruit coming in. Most years are the preseason top 25 team that misses the tournament. There weren't any last year. Weak non-conference, though. Cal, Virginia, and Jose Fernandez list USF are the highlights. Obviously, SEC are going to get a ton of Q1, QU opportunities. You're playing with some fire here if you expect Michaela Blake to score 40 a night to win. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, this has bubble team written all over it. I think they're going to be in a spot where I don't see how, even with Blake scoring 40, like you're not going to compete with likely South Carolina, Texas, LSU, Oklahoma. So you're leaving yourself in a position where you have to win all of your bottom of the SEC games, and then you probably need to an upset at Tennessee, something like that, Illinois.
Which, like, it could happen. They beat them last
Right,
year.
right. It absolutely can happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Now, maybe Sasha Washington missed all last year with an injury. She put up, again, it's against Memphis, 22-11. That's a good start. If you can replace 80% of Camille Pierre's production with Sasha Washington, like, okay,
That's something.
cool.
Yeah.
Now we're talking like whole different conversation. And that may prove to be the case. Another last preseason top 25 SEC team, Kentucky. Obviously, no Georgia Amore. I like this team, maybe more than Vandy right now, which the preseason poll would suggest otherwise.
Yeah, obviously Amore, huge loss. Like, can't discount that, but they bring back a good part of last year's team. Claire Strack is back. I like their additions too in the portal. You had Jordan Obi from Penn, who, I don't think she played much last year, but has
No, she got hurt, and then I don't know
Yeah.
if she ever even played, but yeah, she's so year 2 in the system. But yeah, she's
Right.
good addition.
Good addition. And then Tony Morgan from Georgia Tech too is a really nice addition. I think this is a well-rounded team. It feels like a team. They're not a Final Four team, but like a team that's probably going to upset someone in the SEC, is probably going to take a little bit of a step forward possibly from last year. Obviously no Amore, but I don't think they're going into a decline because they no longer have Georgia Amore.
No, I mean, Strack and Key is a good starting point off of last year's team. And you could do, if you're looking for someone, obviously not as dynamic as Amore, but Tony Morgan, you could do far worse than someone who will have the ball in her hands a lot, who averaged 14.5, 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. You could do far worse in the portal than finding Tony Morgan to try to replace, again, like 60% of Georgia Amore. Brought in a couple of all CUSA players. Again, yeah, you're right. They're not going to be at the top of the SEC. I think there's clear talent here. Upper half of the SEC, which if you finish upper half of the SEC, you're a top 20 team, maybe top 15.
Yeah, exactly.
One other, they're not ranked, not even receiving votes. I'm curious where Alabama goes. No Sarah Ashley Barker, no Aaliyah Nye. They stuck around in the W. Nye won a championship. 2 big losses plus Zay Green. So like their top 3 scorers are gone. They hit the portal hard. It's not that progress is linear, but for a team that's gone from a 10 seed to an 8 seed to a 5 seed, won 20 games like 6 of the last 9 years. I'm surprised they didn't build on it a little more. Like, I don't know if this is a tournament team. I don't really have a point here besides they've really come along in a short period of time as a program, and I think they're just going to take a step back, even if it's just for a year.
Yeah, agreed. It'll be interesting to kind of see how it evolves. I think agree. They're going to take a step back this year, but how does that go going forward, coming off a class of players like Ashley Barker and Nye, and like you had really, really strong players there. They stuck in the W. Usually that helps you recruit going forward. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of build on that going forward or if they fall off, because I think we've seen it the other way too. Not to like go the drastic other example, but like Oregon after Sabrina and Satu and Ruthie Hebert left, like it quickly went the other direction. So
yeah, 2 years ago was brutally bad, and then they come around and won a game in the tournament last year. So basically, all those teams are expected to comfortably make the tournament. You and I are skeptical that Vandy will cruise in. Mississippi State's always a bubble team, like they're perennially a bubble team, and then after that, you're asking for a lot from some of these SEC teams. Big Ten, you can't say the same. So the SEC is top heavy. The question for the Big Ten: how many tournament teams? Because a quick glance, like almost certainly 7 or 5. Yeah, I look at 5 teams and go, yeah, they're going to be in the tournament. And then 7, where the answer is probably, but like that's a lot of teams, and they're going to beat each other. I don't know. It's kind of like last year. Pick teams, I don't know, 6 through 12, and go roll the dice and see who wins.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of that. The Big Ten is going to be all over that bubble conversation when we get to February and March and are really going in on that stuff. You're right. There's a couple clear top teams here, and then there's just a mix of teams that all have a good set of talent, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how they all shake out.
The 6 seed to like an 11 seed, Big Ten NCAA tournament teams, they're all like the same. Just someone beat each other 3 times and someone lost 3 of the 4 games that they've all played each other. There's very little differentiation between these. At least it seems early on. Clear team at the top, UCLA. I know the last time we saw them, they lost by 30-something to UConn. First ever Final Four teams more often than not lose. Arizona a few years back is the exception. If you make a case they're the best team in the country, I won't push back. Like if this is the year, right? If they're not going to win it this year, when are they going to win it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And there is a case. They bring back virtually every really key piece from last year's team. Kiki Rice is back. Lauren Betts is back. Gabriella Hawkins is back. Timmy Gardner is back. And then you add Charlize Ledger-Walker, who was on the team last year, was injured, didn't play, but Washington State transfer, was leading scorer at Washington State many years, like a huge addition. And then you add Gianna Nipkins from Utah, too. 2 huge scorers and added to what was already a team that had a great offense a lot of the time last year. So I think this team is going to be super fun to watch this year.
Maybe the most impactful portal addition there will be, including Tania Latson. I mean, she's averaged 19 a game at Utah on 50, 40, 90 splits. There's like 5 players last year that did that, and like 3 of them were Utes. That's not the exact number, but I know it's something crazy like that. She's efficient, consistent outside scoring, a 3-point threat who can also drop 25 on a given night. She's kind of an upgrade on now USC player London Jones, and you still have Gardner off the bench, who was huge in that LSU Elite 8 game. Angela Dugalich is still there. She's like 55 years old, it seems. She's been in college, I feel like, forever. And not to mention, we haven't mentioned the other bets. A top 5 recruit in Sienna, who I think is hurt right now. It's a short-term injury. She'll be back sooner than later. 1 year to play with her sister. But you get 1 year of Betts, Lauren, Rice, Hawkes, Neepkins, Gardner, Dugalich, Ledger-Walker, and Sienna Betts. What are you going to do with it, UCLA?
Yeah, if they are going to win a championship, it probably needs to be this year. Not that they're not going to get other good recruits and things, but like this is the time to do it. Like with this roster, if this roster stays healthy, there's no reason you can't win a national championship this year.
No, absolutely not. And I think they're the clear-cut top team in the conference. Because who's number 2? Maryland?
Maryland.
A lot of hype here. Preseason top 10 team, 5 freshmen, 3 of them are international, so it's hard to gauge like where that ranks because they don't rate international freshmen. It's hard to not be excited by the portal additions, though, right? Yarden Garzone, sharpshooter, better than 40% at Indiana. Alucci Okanawa from Duke, most outstanding player ACC tournament. There's a reason to be excited about this team.
Yeah, exactly. I think you bring back, players from last year, Bree McDaniel, Kayleen Smichael, Sarah Poffenberger, that were huge pieces of Maryland's success last year. Yeah, you lose to Cheyenne Sellers, but those additions are really strong additions, and there's a lot of hype around this team for good reason. They are pretty young. I think that's the one thing that jumps out at me. Like there's 6 freshmen on this roster. Yes, you've got some experience in the transfer, but it's a pretty young team.
Bree McDaniel, of course, could come back at some point. She tore her ACL in January, so if she comes back at some point, that's a boost. Whenever it happens, if it happens, this is a really strong 5. And then we'll see. Even if you hit on 2 of these 5 freshmen, and hit on, I mean, like immediate impact.
Yeah,
that'll go a long way for the Terps. Who, much like last year, the notable non-conference games, like it's okay. Princeton, Mason, Kentucky. So we'll get a sense, but I expect them to have a gaudy record as we head into January.
Yes.
I want to talk USC. They're probably not the 3rd best team in the Big Ten. What does it look like without Juju? That's the $1 billion question, right?
Yeah, I mean, without most of this team's identity from last year, because yes, you don't have Juju, but you also like Kikiri Effin isn't there, Ram Marshall isn't there. Like the core of this team is going to be entirely different this year. And I think it's going to be fascinating. Obviously, Jazzy Davidson, huge ad, and the number 1 recruit, depending who you look at, I guess, but generally top 2 recruit. Kennedy Smith is back, but they lose Heckle and Howell from that really good freshman class last year. So I think there's just a lot of question marks here.
They're still really young.
Yeah, it's a very young team.
Kara Dunn, Georgia Tech. Remember how Georgia Tech made the tournament last year? That's not going to happen after Nell Fortner retired. They all left. Kara Dunn and London Jones for the portal are the only 2 seniors. In fact, the only other juniors on the team hardly played at all. So it's a super young team. But man, they're talented even without Juju. Kennedy Smith might be the best on-ball defender in the country as a sophomore. You mentioned Jazzy. This is a tournament team. I'm not questioning that. Right. I'm questioning if this is a top 20 team. Like if Jazzy lives up to that billing, probably. Mm-hmm. If she doesn't right away, maybe they're good, not great, and they bounce in and out of the rankings. They're like an 8-9 seed that you probably don't want to see. Yeah. Not unlike Michigan from last year. Are they ready to make the leap?
I've been going back and forth on this. I'm excited about this team. They still just feel very young. And like obviously Scylla Swords, right? 2nd year, Olivia Olson, 2nd year. Everyone's really excited to see what those 2 are going to do now that they have a year under their belt. But not a lot of like super exciting like blockbuster bring-ins from the transfer portal. You got Ashley Sufficanich. Hopefully I didn't butcher that, but from Bucknell, she was the Patriot Player of the Year, but nothing that like jumps off the page there. It still feels like this team might be a year away. Like I think they make a step forward from last year, but I think they're like a year away from like 13 feels a little maybe overhyped.
Last year they lost 11 games. 8 of those games were to teams that hosted in the tournament. Then they also lost to Iowa, who was, I think, a 6 seed. Michigan State was a single-digit seed. Then they randomly lost to Wisconsin. So they beat 2 ranked teams. They beat Michigan State. They split with them and beat Maryland. So that record is 2 and a lot of losses. I expect that to improve. I don't think they're going to go 2-11 or whatever it is, 2-10 against ranked teams. Maybe they're a year away still.
Yeah.
They're not too far from being ready to put them there, but they have a good non-conference. They played Notre Dame. They had to Mohegan Sun to take on UConn. They play Harvard, so we'll know.
Yeah.
Well, we could pick any number of Big Ten teams from here on out. Let's pick one. Iowa. Talk Iowa. Addie Deal. She's going to have very unfair hype. Can she live up to it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reality. Like, she's a 6-foot white combo guard who's quoted as saying, "I like to score. Whether it's me scoring or setting up my teammates, I want to get that score up there." Who does that sound like in recent Iowa history? She's going to be compared to number 22 at every step. It's not fair. That's going to happen.
Yeah. You have Hannah Stuelke back here, so that's a good starting base too. But this is, I feel like every Big Ten team that we could talk about in this like group of 6 to 11 seasons, we call them at the beginning of this discussion, like there's one or two pieces that you're really excited and confident about, and then there's a lot of question marks.
If Addie Deal is like Lucy Olson last year, they were a 6 seed with Olson, where Olson really struggled for a while, got hot in February late in the year. If she's around that and not Caitlin Clark, Iowa's fine. All she needs to be Lucy Olson. Obviously be Addie Deal, but put up Lucy Olson numbers, Iowa's fine.
Right.
With Stuelke and decent secondary scoring with Taylor McCabe, Iowa's fine. I like a team I really like who might emerge from this little pack here. I think Washington. They're ready. I remember I wrote them off in like January last year. They were in the conversation. Then they won like 6 straight and they squeaked in. They lost a playing game to Columbia. Savia Sellers, Elle Ladine, Hannah Steins. Like, yeah, I'm ready to make the leap to Washington top 25 team.
Yeah, they were one outside of it in the preseason poll. I think they're like top team receiving votes. But I agree. I think they finished the season really strong last year. Relatively young squad. Most of it's back. I like the addition of Avery Howell. I thought that trio of USC freshmen last year, that only one is left at USC, but all three of them really impressed, I thought, and when they needed to step up. And I think Howell's a good addition to that Washington lineup. I'm excited about this team.
Michigan State and Nebraska and Illinois, and I'll throw Indiana in there. I know like Michigan State lost Julie Ayral. Nebraska lost Alexis Markowski. Indiana lost Yarden Garzone to the portal. I expect them all to be the same teams record-wise. So Michigan State was 21-9 and they were a 7 seed. That sounds about right. Nebraska was 21-11. They were a 10 seed. That sounds about right. Indiana was middle of the pack. That sounds about right. And I'll throw in Illinois too.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about those teams right now. I think we'll see. Maybe someone will differentiate themselves going into it as we get into the season. But yeah, right now it's kind of a lot of seems similar to last year.
Yeah, and then quickly, Ohio State. Different circumstances for Ohio State than normal. They're used to being a top 20, top 15, top 10 team. Well, they're not. How far can Jelani Cambridge carry them? They're young. I think they struggle. And I think they haven't missed the tourney in a non-COVID year since 19. Well, I think that's in doubt.
Yeah, the roster here is pretty thin. There's not a lot of jump off the page pieces. Obviously, Jelani Cambridge was fantastic as a freshman. I'm excited to see what she does, but that's one piece. And I think, like you said, they're young. They don't have a ton of experience. It'll be interesting to see if they can pull it together, but they have bubble team written all over them too.
Yeah, Cody McMahon's gone. Asia Petty graduated. Taylor Theory, who was there for 150 years, she's gone. She played 1 billion games. So that's mainstays, especially McMahon and Theory, for good Elite Eight teams, second weekend teams. And yeah, now we'll see how far they go. ACC, again, if you want a further ACC preview, Christy Winter-Scott, Cindy Brunson, Helen Williams had the ACC preview pod on the Hoopstats side of this feed last Monday, so you have to go back a little bit. Who is the best team in the Atlantic Coast Conference? Megan Gauer.
It's a great question, and I do not have an answer for you. This conference has I think there's a top tier of teams, but you could tell me any one of Duke, NC State, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Louisville is going to win this conference in March, and I would probably believe you. I might have left someone out there, but I think that's probably the group.
I'd shorten that group to the triangle teams. I think Duke is probably the answer. Similar to Oklahoma, there are lots of reasons this should be the Final Four team. 4 starters are back. Toby Fournier can slide in. Congrats, she's not off the bench. There's your 5th starter. They have 2 McDonald All-Americans who were both hurt last year but been in the program. Riley Nelson, Ariana Roberson. A 3rd McDonald's All-American, true freshman Emily Skinner. Can they take the handbrake off and go score against teams that, respectfully, I don't want to say matter, but the teams that you're going to compete with to go to a Final Four?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question for this team. It was the big question all of last year, and they were so good defensively, but at times we saw the scoring come to life, but then at times it was just ugly, and they've got to find a way to break out of that ugly a little bit if you're going to be a Final Four team.
They had that crazy, stupid game against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
right? Where
In
they
the beginning
almost
of
put
the
up
season.
100. Right,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Oh, Duke solved it." And then, here they're from Valentine's Day onwards, here are their point totals against tournament teams. 49, that's not good. 62, 68, they put up 71, it's against Florida State, that's basically 61. 61, 61. They did put up ACC championship, they scored 76 against State, beat the brakes off a 15 seed Lehigh, didn't crack 60, beat Oregon anyways. That spectacular Sweet 16 game we all cherish dear in our hearts, 47 points in a win over North Carolina, and they scored 50 against South Carolina and lost. I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's just a matter of can they, again, take the handbrake off and give up 5 more points a game. It's okay.
Yes.
If it means you score 10 more points a game, it's fine. And I will say, we've been we've had some fun at the expense of some of these non-conference. Boy, Duke loaded up the non-conference slate. Have you seen some of these games?
Yeah, they got what? Texas, LSU.
They got South Carolina, LSU back to back.
Yeah.
West Virginia, they start Monday in Paris against Baylor. That's the only good game on Monday. Bright and early noon in Paris. They're not shying away.
Mhm.
Like, I'll give them that. Now it's just a matter of can they score enough? Because we know they're going to turn teams over. They're going to play elite defense. They don't need to score 70 every game.
Right.
There'll be games they can win, like the Oregon game last year, 59-53. If you need to, can you score 65?
Yeah.
That's all. If they can, right now they're in my Final Four, my preseason Final Four, because I think they can. Don't make me look foolish, Kara Lawson. Other teams at the top of the ACC, NC State, they're getting a lot of hype. They're getting a lot of hype. Yeah. I'm not as high as others. Not in a like collapse, they're not going to be ranked way. I'm just not ready yet to put them in the top 10.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Like, obviously, Sinai Rivers gone, Isaiah James gone. Those are huge losses. Zoe Brooks, though, has been really, really good. The kind of third piece of that trio, and she's still there. I love the addition of Camille Pierre, obviously. Like, she was great at Vandy. I think it's just going to be, it'll be interesting to see what they truly look like when we get out there.
I think people underestimate how good and how much Rivers brought because she didn't score like Isaiah James, but she also didn't need to. Like, she could guard not quite 1 through 5, but 1 through 4. I mean, look at her rookie year in the W. She was invaluable.
Yeah.
I think they're going to miss that more than I think people realize. Obviously, they'll miss James's ability to score. Camille Pierre certainly helps. I have no idea how she's eligible. I understand NCAA rules are like whose line, everything's made up, points don't matter, but I don't quite know how she's eligible, but good for her that she is. That's where you're most excited is that like they didn't have any consistency really inside last year. I imagine that will change if Tilda Trigger improves and Lorena Wu improves. Now we're cooking. We'll find out right away. Tuesday in Greensboro, they take on Tennessee. They also play USC and TCU. So I think top 20 is fair. Top 10, again, I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
Also a team I'm not on, which I promise I don't hate North Carolina. This is a very similar conversation to Duke. The last time we saw them, they scored 38 points in a regulation basketball game. And they lost their top 3 or 3 of their top 4 scorers. Utsby, Donarski, and Gakdang are all gone. So there are reasons for excitement. They bring in a top 5 recruiting class. Next year they have a top 3 recruit, Katie Harpering, coming in. We know what this team is. For the love of God, can they score? Like Duke times like 2. Can they score?
Yeah, I think it's exactly like you said. Like Duke is the question of can they score, but North Carolina has that question even more because there's less options here and they struggle even more than Duke does. I'm gonna guess we did not see UNC put up nearly 100 points at all last season. At least Duke figured it out once. Maybe they did against.
So the raw numbers are fine, right? Because again, these conversations are like North Carolina is not trying to beat, a mid-major by 100.
Right.
They're calling it, oh, that's good enough. They're trying to get to a Final Four, trying to win a national championship. So yeah, like they'll put up in the 80s against Florida State. They put up 80 on Boston College. They put up 90 on Norfolk State, who technically was a tournament team.
Yeah.
It's just once you shrink it down to these top 25 teams, they haven't consistently done it. Even like okay done it. It's been bad a lot.
Yeah. 39 points will not get you to a Final Four. I can confidently say that. Even if we see Duke, North Carolina in an Elite Eight in 39 points, it's not going to get you to the Final Four.
Yeah. I said these numbers after they lost last year. I'll run them back. 12 games last year against teams ranked 150th or better in scoring D. So basically the top 40% of teams in the whole nation. They average 64 a game, which is okay. You shrink that. Top 50 and top 60 in their hoop stats ranking. So think top 40 defense and a tournament team. Put those together. They played 7 of those games, 57 points a game. 5 of those 7 games, they didn't crack 60 points. And that includes an overtime win over Duke. Yeah. Against a tournament team with a pulse defensively, they just have trouble scoring. The defense gives you a second weekend floor. If you can figure out the offensive ceiling, maybe you can get to Phoenix. I like the addition of Alina Arnasalo, who was pretty good early on at UCLA. The question is, you know what makes a pass-first point guard good?
People to score the ball.
Correct.
When she passes to them.
Pass the test. Yeah, someone to take those passes and put them in the orange cylinder 10 feet above the ground. So if North Carolina can do that, then they're going to be really, really good because that, just like Duke, that defensive solidity is so good. You don't need to be LSU or UConn or Oklahoma offensively. Just be a little bit better, and you have just as good a chance as anyone.
Exactly.
You put Louisville in that conversation. Louisville's kind of settled in, right, as this second tier, 6 seed, 5 seed ACC team the last few years. I think we're going to see that again.
That's fair. I feel like I put them in that group because I feel like they're still a step above maybe the next team in the ACC. They feel closer to the top group than to the next group to me.
Yeah.
And Jeff Wall's he's always just going to have that team going come February, March.
Yeah, 254th in scoring D. That'll need to change, and they have a good amount of change. They lose 3 of their top 4 scorers. Right. Taj Roberts, a nice piece. If they can get an Amari Berry, who was a McDonald's All-American, to make a jump, they'll be good. They brought in a pretty good transfer from St. Joe's, Ziegler, 17-10. It's the old, can you do it in the ACC? Tough schedule, open with UConn, not in Germany. Annapolis,
yeah, Navy campus.
Kentucky.
I like the Ziegler edition a lot. No surprise, A10. But I do think that's going to translate well.
That's true. The A10 and St. Joe's in particular, they were in the bubble conversation.
Yeah, right on that bubble conversation last year, yeah.
Yeah, they opened with UConn. They play Kentucky, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And I'm going to be honest, for everyone's sake who would have gone to Germany, that game would have tipped at 11:30 local time in Germany, p.m. at night. What's that benefit? At least the Paris game on Monday's at noon Eastern. So that's 5? It's a real human time where people are awake. And if I were an Air Force person, I'd go to this game. I'm sorry, so what time?
Yeah, never mind. I'm gonna be.
I gotta stay put. What? I'm good, thanks. Everyone, I think dodged a bullet there. Instead, they're going to Annapolis and still playing at 5:30 Eastern, but that's the normal dinner time.
Yes.
All right. Elephant in the ACC room. What does Notre Dame look like?
I think the floor is still relatively high because you have Hannah Hidalgo and let's play. We're talking about National Player of the Year type conversation. Your floor is automatically elevated because you have her, but there's a whole lot of question marks beyond Hidalgo on the roster. Only other player I think that really contributed last year that's back is Kiki Bransford.
She missed last year. So Hassan Prosper.
Yeah, Prosper. And then Bransford obviously was good 2 years ago. So, okay, you bring that back. But then beyond that.
I like Ayanna Moore.
Yeah, Ayanna Moore is a good addition.
From Vanderbilt. But, and they also picked up role players from Duke, Wake, and K-State. They have a McDonald's All-American, Leah Macy. She hurt her knee in January. I feel like it's underwhelming. Ayanna Moore, good, but role players, hurt freshman, which you can't control, and Hannah Hidalgo and Kassan Prosper. I feel like Notre Dame is capable of more.
Yeah, I think it's a surprising shift in talent. Looking at a team last year that had Hidalgo, Miles, Sonia Strawn, Leato King, Maddie Westbeld, it was a stacked roster, and now outside of Hidalgo, there's not a lot of highlights on this team.
I mean, how far can Hannah take you? That's the answer.
Yeah.
Non-con, it could be a rough start. Non-conference, they get Michigan, USC, Ole Miss, and then they open at Florida State for ACC on December 7th. There's also a stretch in January: Duke, BC, UNC, Louisville, UConn. It could be rough at times. Probably for the better that they're being thrown in the fire, because even if they lose some of these games, maybe they take enough out of it where by February they're battle tested. They rack up some ACC wins, and suddenly it's sure maybe they're not a top 4 seed. They're like a 5 or a 6 seed. I don't want them coming to my place. I could see that happening very, very easily.
Yeah, I think that's probably the ceiling. I can't see this team being like hosting level this year. I just don't. I think there's too many teams that have better pieces. Not that it can't happen, but I would be surprised to see it happen.
Which isn't a bad thing by any stretch. It's
No.
just so far removed from what Notre Dame historically, outside of like the first couple Ivy years, is
Right.
to women's basketball. One other ACC team, I know Stanford missed the tourney last year. I mean, I think this year, like this is, we'll see what the future of Stanford women's basketball looks like. I think this year they have 3 McDonald's All-Americans. They don't need to be amazing. I think they need to be good though and make the tournament. Keep those 3 players around. Show some signs of progress. Be like Michigan last year.
Yeah.
Because if this thing goes haywire with that recruiting class, how does it get better with the travel and all the other things that are out of their control? I think this is it for Stanford. If they prove that last year was an anomaly, cool. If it isn't,
yeah, I feel like there's a lot hanging on this season for them. Even though they're probably not a team we're going to talk about maybe a ton to start off with, like I think they do at least make the tournament, show signs of moving in the right direction. And then, like you said, if you can keep this recruiting class, like that's a building block in the right direction. But if like you have 2 of those 3 transfer out at the end of the year, I think they're in trouble.
Or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. Or, they happen to miss on them. And it's just,
right.
I mean, let me pull up the schedule. It's January. You travel to the Triangle, State in North Carolina. Then you come back home. Then the next week you go to Boston College, and then you fly to Syracuse. And then you get a couple of weeks because you play Cal. Then you're flying to Pittsburgh, and then Sunday you got to fly from Pittsburgh to Atlanta. That's not a short flight. And then you're going back. You go to Miami and Florida State. Again, they're in the same state. They're not close to each other. You're living on an airplane for the better part of 3 months. And then if you make the tournament, God knows where you're going to go. Like that doesn't sound like a life that I want to live if I'm a recruit. But if you're winning a bunch of games, yeah, I'll get over it a lot faster. So I think it's a big year. We missed anyone in the ACC?
I don't think so. I'm looking at my list.
ACC always is like some team that surprises us. Speaking of surprises, TCU surprised everyone last year. They're not going to this year.
Yeah.
There are some teams that are new. Then there's what TCU's doing.
Yeah. They might give. I mean, I think Ole Miss actually might be the most new team this year, but TCU is right up with them.
I mean, yeah, basically only Donovan Hunter is back. Obviously, no Haley Van Lith, no Sedona Prince, no Madison Connor. But you got Olivia Miles and a bunch of giant human beings. That's not a terrible way to go.
Right. Yeah, obviously, the big name here is Olivia Miles. It was shocking when it happened was it March? I forget exactly when that happened. I think late March.
It wasn't long after the season.
Yeah. Maybe it was before the Final Four.
Oh, no, that broke during the Final Four game, didn't it?
Oh, yes. It was an ill-timed. Yes, now I do remember that.
Come on, Sam. Be better.
But yeah, obviously that's huge, right? Like Miles, a player that I think, she was coming off injury last year. She got to a pretty good level by the end of the season. Like someone that could certainly be in the first team All-American conversation. If you think about like what Haley Van Lith did at TCU in a year, like similar trajectory for Miles, and she's going to be in really good shape coming into the draft next year. So I think that's a player to be excited about here. But
finish your thought.
I was just saying that you've got, like you said, a lot of tall pieces around her, so it's probably going to work well enough to at least be a top 20 team.
I mean, tall, like may undershoot it. Here are the newcomers to TCU's program, not named Olivia Miles. Marta Suarez is 6'2". That's pretty tall. Cal, she used to be at Tennessee. That's not bad. Kennedy Basham from Arizona State, 6'7". Clara Silva from Kentucky is 6'7", and here are their freshmen: a German kid who's 6'4", an Australian kid who's 6'8", and an American kid, boring, who's 6'7". Like, you don't have to be that
Big team.
good on defense. Just go score in the paint on TCU. I dare you.
Mhm.
Have 3 of them foul out. That's fine. There's just more. That I'm fascinated to see if that can work. Obviously, if you make a bunch of threes, that's different. But and obviously, not all of them are going to play 20 minutes a night. But man, like I can't think of a team that's been that big ever.
Yeah, it's certainly been a while. You're gonna have to go back a ways.
Even with all of these new pieces, do you think? I think they're preseason number 1. They might not have been.
I think they were preseason number 1 in the Big 12. I'm gonna double check myself on that now because you're making me.
But
Yeah, no, they were.
do you think they are with some of these? Like there's Baylor, there's Iowa State, there's Oklahoma State.
I probably would have gone Baylor. I think Baylor brings back a solid core. But I think you could debate it. Like I get that Miles is probably the best player in the league. Like there's an argument for that. Obviously, Audie Crooks also has an argument for that. But I think you could argue your way into Baylor. You can argue your way into TCU, and you can argue your way into it being Iowa State.
Baylor's fascinating. Dariana Littlepage Bugs, All-American caliber. If she can stay healthy. She got banged up towards the end of the year, just an ill-timed injury. I like Bella Fauntleroy. And speaking of health, they got a transfer. Talia Scott, she's played 2 seasons. Auburn and Arkansas, 2 very bad teams. She averaged over 20 a game. She only played 23 games in those 2 seasons. So if she can stay healthy, like she's a bucket getter. She got buckets in high school. But Sarah Andrews, Jada Walker, Aaronette Vonleh, Yaya Felder, they're all gone. And they're not very big. Like a Baylor TCU matchup is fascinating because Baylor only has 2 players above 6'2".
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not precluding them from anything. I just, especially if they're good from 3 again, like they were last year, it just puts a lot of pressure when you're small to be good from 3. Case in point, you lost to Ole Miss in the second round. You were 2 of 15.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always tough when there's a lot of reliance on the 3-point shot because there will be nights where those just don't fall. And yeah, you're hanging your hat on that. It's tough when that happens, especially like you say, a matchup like with the TCU where they're just not going to have the size to compete inside.
Team that maddened us last year, or at least maddened me, Iowa State. It was too much too soon. Like it's not their fault. They were a top 10 team in the preseason. They wound up being an 11 seed in the tournament. They have maybe the best duo in the conference of Audie Crooks and Addie Brown, who are juniors. But Emily Ryan is gone. She's technically on the coaching staff, but gone from playing. There's not a whole lot proven behind them. I think they're the highest ranked team in the preseason.
They are. Yeah, I think this one will be interesting. I mean, I thought things turned in the right direction last year for them, right? Like it started off real bad.
Started off so bad that you're right. If they had gone even like 500 in that early season, we'd probably be speaking of it very differently in how the second half went.
Yeah, like I think in December we're probably like this team wasn't gonna make the tournament, and like they did make the tournament on the bubble, but they made it. They turned it around. Obviously, I expect that like Crooks and Brown will be a little bit better this season. I like the addition of Jada Williams from Arizona. At least you've got an experienced guard in there. Try to get them the ball. It's not a bad addition, but I think it could take a little time for that to gel.
The defense just needs to be better. They allowed 67 a game. That's too many. Opponents shot 35% from 3. That was like 340th nationally. Some of it, like there's some variation there. Like regression to the mean would go a long way for Iowa State of teams just shooting a little bit worse from 3. They don't really get stops. They don't force turnovers. Until proven otherwise, I'm lower on Iowa State than some. They're probably top 25 good just because Crooks and Brown are so good. I don't think they're top 15 good just because of the defense. But they're still, they're gonna get people.
Agreed. They'll get people. I think the question for the Big 12 is like, can any of these 3 kind of top teams there separate themselves and like get into a hosting spot? I think that's going to be the question. Like, does this league actually host anything in the conference?
My hot take. I don't know if they'll host. I'll say right now, Oklahoma State finishes higher than Iowa State again.
That's fair.
I like Oklahoma.
I actually am high on them too.
Yeah, 25-7. JC Hoyt got rewarded with a contract extension. The big question with when you make a jump, just can you repeat it? And I think they can. Staley Hurd, she's a junior. Micah Gray, their second leading scorers back. Yeah, that's a good place to start if you're trying to replicate. What seed were they last year?
10. I want to say a 10.
Yeah, I think they'll be better than that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll host, but I think they'll be better than 10.
Agreed. I think they were pretty young last year. Like you'll get that experience. You've been to the tournament recently now. Like that's gonna help. This team will be ready. I like some of the additions to Amari Whiting from BYU, Haley Timmer from South Dakota State, players that have performed at the major level that are experienced. I think that helps balance out this team. I think they're an interesting one. They're kind of sitting outside of, I feel like, that top tier in the Big 12 right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're kind of right up there with everyone, with the TCU, with the Iowa State, with the Baylors.
Their floor is just so steady. They're a top 40 offense. They're a top 25 defense. They defend the 3-point line well. They don't commit turnovers. They have some size. They rebound well. Like all those things, they're going to be a good team. The problem is I just can't put them at that upper echelon level because they don't do anything upper echelon. They don't suck at anything, but they're also not like great at anything. But they play Oklahoma on December 13th. They're going to be 11-0 because they play at St. John's and they play Miami in an MTE. Those are your best two non-conference games. So they're going to have some hype rolling into, I think it's a home game. Game in Norman? That might be a neutral site game. Either way, they're going to play Oklahoma in December. We'll learn how good they are then.
Yeah. I like they don't suck at anything. We should use that more to describe teams.
I mean that as a compliment. Like
yes, there's many teams that suck at certain things.
If you rebound the ball decently well, and for the love of God, don't turn the ball over, you are going to be pretty good. Yes. No matter what else you do almost. Now add in a 17-point per game scorer who shoots 40% from three and also rebounds. And add a Micah Gray, a senior, who's your second leading scorer. You're going to be good. Yeah. I just don't think they're going to be like Final Four good, and that's fine.
Yeah.
To answer my own question, they play Oklahoma. There's a little star there, which means a neutral location. So if I had to guess, that game's in Tulsa. Either way, it's not in Norman. It's not in Stillwater. Quickly, Big 12, West Virginia. They lose J.J. Quinterly. Rinse, repeat, or copy, paste. How do they score?
Yeah, exactly.
Defense is elite, so that's going to keep them in games. They also went 16-0 at home last year, and 9-8 everywhere else. If they can just figure out how to win away from, it's not the WVU Coliseum anymore. They got a sponsor, but they learn how to win away from Morgantown. And Jordan Harrison, now the leading go-to. Yeah, they lost 7 games in the Big 12 in the tournament last year. They didn't crack 65 in any of them. They can just figure out how to score.
Yeah.
Scoring isn't this hard. I promise. Like, scoring shouldn't be this hard. Yeah. Teams have figured it out. Florida State figured it out. Florida State's the inverse. They're the only team in the country that figured out how to score. They just don't know how to stop it. Transition for K-State. Aoka Lee is gone, but so is Serena Sundell. They lost their top 4 scorers. What does it look like? Transition year. I think they'll be back probably next year.
Agreed. I don't see a lot there this year that gets me excited, but like you said, transition year. I don't think they'll fall off completely. I think they'll figure it out and come back next year.
And then one other Big 12 point: the weird end of the Adia Barnes era at Arizona has come to a conclusion. Have you seen this non-conference schedule for the Arizona Wildcats?
I have not.
This makes LSU look like they're playing the Aces 12 times. Let's see. I'm just going to list names. UC Riverside. That do anything for you?
No.
UC Irvine. Now, this next one. So they released their graphic and they put all the logos in white, and it was a G. So you think, at least they play Georgia. False. It is not Georgia. It is Grambling that they play, not Georgia. So UC Riverside, UC Irvine, Grambling, Northern Arizona, Northern Colorado, Cal State Bakersfield, Southern, New Mexico, Eastern Kentucky, Chicago State, Bellarmine. Then they're in the Big 12. What are we doing?
Yeah.
That's Minnesota. They're going to be like 12-0, and some stupid person's going to put them in the top 25. And no, you do not get credit for going 12-0 against Quad 4 competition. You don't do it.
Yeah. Those are the teams that I only recognize because they show up on the 15 and 16 lines of my brackets.
Yes. They're going to have a nice gaudy record. And unless they're like a top 5 team in the Big 12, I don't want them in the tournament. You don't show ambition, I don't want you in the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. If you're not going to try in the off season, and then you're going to play in they can't control what conference they're in, but like the Big 12 is not enough to offset that of a preseason schedule.
What a high note for us to end on. The last team we talked about. All right. We'll wrap up with, I meant to go back and look at what we did last year. I don't have yours, but I bet you I have mine. I think we got the Final Four right. Not that it went chalk and we were anything crazy. Let me pull up my notes from last year. Last year, at least I said South Carolina, Texas, UConn. I went USC.
I don't remember what I said last year, but I'm gonna guess I didn't put Texas in it. So it was probably UConn, South Carolina, UCLA, and maybe USC. I don't remember.
And I got 4 of the 5 All-Americans. I had Audie Crooks, and then Lauren Betts became the best player. One of the best players in the country. So I got that wrong. Anyways, All-Americans. Megan, who's going to be the All-American at the end of the year?
I have the first 2. I don't think will shock anyone. Sarah Strong, Lauren Betts, Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles, and Madison Booker. Maybe a little bit more controversy on the last couple. Hopefully we're not the exact same.
No, we are not. No, Hidalgo, Strong, Betts, I have. I have Reagan Beers. And because I think Oklahoma will be good. And then Tania Latson, who probably should have been, I don't know, first team All-American, but probably should have gotten some more national recognition at Florida State. Now, even if her stats are worse, she's obviously on a better team. It shouldn't matter. It does. South Carolina's going to have a gaudy record. She's probably going to lead the team in scoring. I mean, All-American. Tania Latson. So I had basically the preseason team minus, I had Beers over Booker. Who is going to make the Final Four in Phoenix?
I have UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and LSU. Nothing all that creative there, to be honest. But.
So we have 3 of the 4, and then I swapped out. I don't have LSU. So UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and I have Duke. And I don't feel great. I believe they can score enough.
Yeah.
Do it. Ashlyn Jackson had flashes last year. Just put it together a little more, and they're going to go to Phoenix. Duke highlights, I'm not going to lie, it's not the greatest first week we ever had. There are some good games. It's good quality, not good quantity. Duke, Baylor at noon on Monday. Tuesday, you got Louisville, UConn, and Annapolis, and then Tennessee, NC State, and Greensboro, so technically a neutral site, and then Texas and Richmond on Thursday. Spiders.
Yes.
Maddie Dugan, Rachel Olstrom, they're back.
Top 25 preseason. I'm excited to see what the team looks like. They bring back a lot, and they've got, they have Texas. Do they have Duke somewhere in there? Maybe
they have TCU, and then Fairfield, which Fiorsico. Like, if you know ball, that's you got to watch that.
That's a great game.
I don't want to ask I don't want to ask how I have to acquire that game. Yeah, it won't be on ESPN. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. They also play Penn State and then
Columbia, too, I think.
Right, then, of course, they get into the A10. A10 going to be as good? Because we were talking 3-bit last year. I think it wound up with, 2 was Richmond and Mason.
2. I don't think they're going to be as good. Unfortunately, I think going to Louisville, I heard St. Joe's. Mason should still be good, though. Mason and I think Richmond is going to be really good, though. So yeah. I'm excited for Richmond to be kind of in that top 25 conversation all season.
Yes, it's a good sign. It's not fair, but it is what it is. Just mid-majors aren't, like, the margin is smaller. Mm-hmm. Yes, in terms of their schedule, they're not going to play as many quad 1, quad 2 games, but reputation-wise, they lost to Texas. They lost to TCU. Well, they're not good enough, clearly. They are.
Yeah.
You just assume
there'll be a lot of teams that lose to Texas and TCU this year.
Right. If you swapped the Spiders logo with like a Michigan State logo or something, it's obviously a tournament team. Obviously. Like, not a question, but they have a Spider and they play in the A10 and you go, are they? They are. Especially with Dugan and Ulstrom back. More mid-major talk on Wednesday's show. Christy Winter-Scott, Jacob Mox went through more mid-majors early. Becky Hammond Award, Mid-Major Player of the Year, watch list. So more in-depth beyond just Richmond, because there are other good teams. Halloween this week.
Yes.
What are we doing?
I am going to New York on Thursday for Halloween. My boyfriend DJs part-time, so he's DJing a large club. We both have side gigs. Very busy household over here.
I have lots of questions. So are you going to be like alone in this club?
No, I mean, we have friends going too, and I'll probably just be on stage. But
what are you dressed as?
We are going as F1 drivers, Ferrari F1 drivers. I made the costumes this weekend.
You
So,
made them
yes.
like ironing like things onto jackets
Yeah.
or like sewing. Like what? How?
Yeah. I sew a little sewing, mostly ironing things onto jackets.
I watch a lot of sports. I can't say I watch F1.
So.
Man, I I have not dressed up for Halloween. I can tell you when 2004 because I'm mad that I missed the football game. So I remember it. My 4-year-old is Spider-Man, so I've decided I will be Uncle Ben, aka I'm just a guy in plain clothes.
There you
Hopefully,
go.
yeah, hopefully I make it through tonight. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
Ooh, I really like the Reese's Pumpkins, and then this is, like, very niche, but the Haribo Sour Bats is, like, one of the best
Oh,
Haribo candies, in my opinion, and you can only get them at Halloween.
that's off the wall. I like that. Yeah, the Reese's. It used to be just eggs at Easter. Now it's like they branched off into every holiday. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Can't get enough. One more note. Halloween is December 31st. You know what November 1st is not, Megan? I don't care what your opinion is on this. You know what it's
Christmas.
not? It is not Christmas.
I agree.
Okay. I have to tell my wife that, you know what we're not going to do Saturday? Play Christmas music because she's already brought it up. I don't want to hear it.
This
It's not
weekend
Christmas.
is still Halloween, in my opinion. Like, Halloween, first of all, doesn't end until November 2nd because it's Halloween weekend. But then it's also not Christmas on November 3rd. Like, we
Correct.
can wait a few weeks.
One of my, I don't know if it's a boomer take or whatever, but in society, it seems November 1st is more of Christmas than like December 26th. And I think that's wrong. I don't like it. You know what I do like? We have a whole year of this. Whole year. Because we're going to go every Friday. We're not going to go quite as long. This is our mega pod. We talked about, I'll rack up the number of teams and tweet it out. We talk about a lot of teams. So enjoy the games this week. We'll be back for a shorter show and we'll recap Megan's partying in New York City next week. So enjoy the games.